Good afternoon and welcome to Who's Right. Today we have with us Chad Lee, who's running for the 2nd District Congressional seat. And I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you,
Welcome,
Sandra.
Chad.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So you're running for the congressional seat, District 2.
Yep.
And a lot of people want to run for Congress, but very few do. So what is it that made you want to run for this seat?
Well, really, I look at 2012 and I can't help but believe that this is the most important election of our lifetime. I know in 2010 when I ran, I said that and I truly believed it. But as time progressed and I saw the policies that were being implemented across the board from the federal government, I truly believe that our freedoms are at stake this election, and we need to make a difference in 2012. If we don't stop the course we're on, I think we're heading towards a financial cliff that we won't be able to recover from.
Correct. So is that enough to make you get out there and fight the fight and
Well, absolutely.
go through everything you have to do?
When you think of what that would do to our country, not just today, but in the future, for future generations, for our kids, for our grandkids, the effect that would have on their life. For kids to dream big in the future, that would be stunted. I mean, you look at Cuba, and it matters what family you were born into. If you're born into a family that doesn't have a lot of money when you were born, that's what you're stuck at. You can work as hard as you want, and you'll never be able to overcome those odds. And that's what I'm afraid is going to happen to America, where you hard work, discipline, putting yourself out on the line, sacrificing to start a company or try to create some private sector jobs. That will no longer be an option unless you were born with the opportunity to do that. And so that's what I'm afraid of. I want to make sure that we can protect the American dream, we can protect our freedoms and our liberties and the pursuit of happiness for future generations.
So that we don't become Cuba.
Exactly.
Exactly. So what is it for you personally, though, for your personal life, to go through an election like this?
Well, I think if you talk to any candidate running for any position, it's a big sacrifice. I think it takes a special spouse, in my case, who can be patient and sacrifice on her end. It's difficult for family members, but it's worth it, because if we don't sacrifice now, I don't want to look back, and I don't want people who are getting involved in this campaign or who are running for other office, I don't want them to look back in the future and say, you know what, if only I would have stepped out and tried to make a difference, if only I would have sacrificed a little bit more, put a little bit more time in, or maybe helped out this campaign or this candidate. I don't want to be that person with a regret, and I don't like living with regrets. I don't want to have regrets. And that's really what I'm going around the district talking to other people about too, that share the same concerns I have. Families that are struggling, or business owners that want to create jobs but don't have the confidence in the system and what the federal government's doing as far as regulations and taxes going up come January 1st. I want them to be able to say the same thing, as I don't have regrets. I did everything I could. I got involved. I tried to make a difference. And that's really why I got involved. I don't want to have regrets. I want to do everything in my power as one individual to stand up and make a difference here in America and in Wisconsin.
So as you talk to the people when you're out there, what do you hear from them? What are they saying to you as you're out there talking to them?
Well, really, across the board, I mean, it's a big area that we have. It's about 800,000 people, but across the board, people are hurting financially. The cost of living is rising with the drought we're facing. The price of food is going to be skyrocketing pretty soon here. Farmers are hurting. Their crops aren't growing. They're basically having to trash a lot of their crops that can't even be used for feed for animals. They're scared of what's happening, and if the federal government doesn't get out of the way and continues to put those increasing demands of regulation, as I just said, with increasing taxes come January 1st, top to bottom, families just can't afford for that to happen. They can't afford more taxes, and farmers and job creators can't afford more burdensome regulations. I'm for responsible regulations, but we're to the point now where we have bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. that are sitting around and they're just adding more and more layers of regulation. Just to start a company, just to start going through the paperwork costs thousands of dollars. The tax code is so onerous and burdensome. It's become its own industry in and of itself, with tax lawyers, tax attorneys, accountants. These are all costs that someone has to take onto themselves. And if it's the business owner or the company, they have to pass it on to the family that wants to use those products or services. And so the cost of living across the board is just continuing to rise because of over-regulation and over-taxation. And those are the two things that we really need to get a grip on.
Right. Well, if you were elected to Congress,
Mm-hmm.
what would you do about these regulations? What would you be able to do? I mean, you're a congressman,
Right.
and what's your first
Well,
move?
one of the biggest differences between myself and the opponents that are running to run against me in the general election is I don't feel the necessity that I have to go to Washington and just pass regulation and pass legislation. I think we need people to go there who can start sifting through all the paperwork and all the tax codes and regulations, say, okay, maybe it's time to repeal some of these things that are maybe out of date or obsolete or just duplicative. That would be my first step, is just finding those programs, finding those regulations, finding those loopholes that we can get rid of and create a better environment for growth.
But Congress seems to fight that. They fight, getting rid of waste and fraud. It's a huge issue. I mean, waste and fraud.
Right.
So even if you can find it, how do you convince them to get rid of it?
Well, really, it's just communicating why it's bad, or why it's burdensome to families or to the job creators, and building, whether it's across the aisle or just getting enough votes to get that through. It's really, it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of communicating. It's going to take someone who's been in a leadership position before, that knows how to work with people from different backgrounds. That's something that I've been able to do with the different companies that I've started, where I've had to work with people from different backgrounds. Maybe they disagree with me, and we have to work together to find a solution that works for everyone. But those are the types of things we need to really get back to. And when you look at the politicians and bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., a lot of them are just in self-preservation mode, where they're afraid to really take on the tough issues because they want to get reelected again. And if they take on some of these tough issues, they don't want to get attacked because they may not get reelected again. And they want to be lifelong politicians. That's their dream. That's what they want to do. They want to retire at an old age, being out there in Washington, D.C. for decades on end. That's not my dream. I've never dreamed to be a lifelong politician. I don't want to be a lifelong politician. I want to go there, take care of business, do what I believe is best, not just for this group or that group or this segment of the population, that segment of the population, but for Americans as a whole. I believe there are ideas that are good for all Americans that can take us to where we need to go.
So how is your past business experience going to benefit you as a congressman?
Well, just the fact that I know I can't print money to fix every problem, that's where I'd start.
That's a biggie.
Yeah, I mean, the principles of balancing a budget. It sounds simple, but the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. just they don't understand that you can't print money in the private sector. We need to get back to that. Understand the difference between signing the front of a check, the back of a check. That's something I've talked about a lot, where I understand as a business owner and someone who's tried to create jobs here in Wisconsin, what exactly regulation, what kind of cost that has on the business itself, and how that can stunt growth or put an obstacle in front of trying to create another job or a couple more jobs, or a dozen here, a dozen there, whatever that may be. We need people with business backgrounds who have been there, who have done that, who know the principles of economics, the free market solutions, that will help us get back on track, get the economy back on track, and create an environment for businesses to have the confidence to grow, to invest back in their business, and know that the cost of doing business isn't going to skyrocket 6 months from now, and they're going to have to lay off the worker they just hired.
Right, right. Well, of course, one big problem that is the question mark of all question marks, that no one knows what is going to happen with it, is Obamacare.
Right.
We don't know whether we're going to get a new president and a Senate and a Congress that will be able to repeal it
Right.
or not. And if we don't repeal it, we have a real problem on our hands.
A tremendous problem. And you add that to Tax-Mageddon, it's just compounding. Tax-Mageddon is a huge tax across the board. You add Obamacare, or what I'm starting to call Obama tax, the biggest tax
Oh, yes.
in the history of taxes. On top of that, you want to see unemployment continue to go up. That's exactly what's going to happen. You want to see businesses begin to close their doors quicker and not hire at a more rapid pace. That is what's going to happen come January if we don't come up with a different solution.
Right.
Obamacare doesn't fix the problems. It's not going to bring costs down. The people who end up benefiting the most are the insurance companies themselves. It doesn't talk about tort reform. That's huge. You talk to doctors, and that's their main concern, is why wasn't this part of this multi-thousand-page bill that was actually trying to bring down costs? That would have helped tremendously.
Oh,
Let's
sure.
increase competition by letting people shop across state lines. Let's make it portable where they can take it from job to job, or if they have to move from state to state, they can carry their insurance with them. Those are the types of free market solutions that are going to help bring costs down. And you start paging through Obamacare or Obama tax, and it's just regulation after regulation. It's the federal government putting their hand into every aspect of our lives. When they control your health care, they can control everything else in your life.
That's right. And we now know that it's not a health care, it's a tax.
Absolutely. And Supreme Court
Which-
came out and said that. And Nancy Pelosi on July 1st actually came out and said that as well. I don't know if she meant to be that honest, but she knows it's a tax, and she came out and said it on July 1st.
Yeah, it is a tax. So what does that mean, it's a tax? What does that mean to the future of our lives?
It means that the federal government can label any regulation as a tax. And because the Supreme Court set that precedence, that's the angle that the federal government is going to take from here on out. And we need people, the conservatives, to get in there and legislate from a constitutional standpoint, not pass this legislation that they just label as a tax and say, okay, now we can control this, or we can tell you have to buy this, or you have to buy that, or you have to eat this, or drive this, or wear this.
So are we really in a world right now where they can tax anything and make it
It's
a
beginning.
law?
It's beginning to appear that way, and it's a scary thing. When that ruling came out from the Supreme Court, my paradigm on the government in America shifted in a way that I never thought it would in my lifetime, and it's a scary thing. And that's again why we have to get in there and make a difference and get back to constitutional legislation.
Right. So your winning in Congress is essential.
It is.
It is essential.
Mhm.
And it's essential that we take over Congress and Senate and that we get a new president. That, other than that, the Constitution is hanging by a thread.
It is. It is. It's a
are
paramount situation. We're at a turning point in America where we need to decide as, well, at least here in the 2nd District of Wisconsin, the people need to decide what direction do we want to go in as a nation. Do we want to rely on government for every aspect of our lives and wait for them to tell us what we have to buy, what we have to wear, what we have to drive, what we have to eat? Or do we want to get back to freedom and liberty, the way our founding fathers founded our nation? And that's really the difference between myself and the candidates on the other side that are waiting to run against me.
Right. It's critical.
Absolutely.
Now, what about unemployment? It's still up at 8.2%. Do you expect it to stay above 8% through November?
As long as Nancy Pelosi and President Obama are in office, I don't see it falling below 8% unless they start messing with the numbers. Because the legislation that they're passing and the programs that they're pushing the last 3+ years, 3.5 years, have gotten us to where we're at, and they're continuing to do that. Unless something changes, which I don't see it happening, we're just going to continue down that path. And real unemployment is much higher than 8%.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the low end of things. When you start looking at people who are underemployed or who just aren't looking for jobs, it's up in the low to mid-teens. So I really don't see it changing as long as they are in office and they're pushing their agenda.
And how do you think that's going to affect our election?
Well, I hope and I trust that the American people and the people here in Wisconsin are going to do their research. They're going to study. They're going to look at the issues. They're going to see where the candidates actually stand. They're going to sift through the blurriness that we're going to see on television or read in different blogs, and really find out where these candidates stand and where I stand and what my beliefs are and where my principles are at and what way am I going to legislate once I get to Congress, and what way are my opponents going to legislate. Very different. In fact, it could not be more different. They believe government is the solution to every problem. I believe that we the people are the solution to every problem, and you really don't get any more different than that.
You would think it would be so easy to see.
Yeah.
It would be
Unfortunately,
so
it's not.
obvious.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not, and that's why I'm out there. I'm shaking as many people's hands and meeting as many folks as possible, listening to their concerns, and trying to communicate to them how I would fix those problems and where I would and how I would legislate to as many people as possible, one-on-one, groups of people, really traveling all over the district on a daily basis, just trying to get our message out, because we have the winning issues. We really do. We have the winning issues. We've got the winning campaign. It's just a matter of getting that out in an effective manner, and that's why I need everyone's help to get us out there.
And we're trying to give it to you. And what do you think about the EPA controls? What do you think they should be controlled, and if so, why? How?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think there should be some congressional oversight on that. It's not an elected body, and they're beginning to, and they already have, overstepped their boundaries with the different regulations they're pushing. So we absolutely need some oversight by elected officials in Congress. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And how should we go about doing that?
Well, we just need to make sure that they stay within their boundaries. Again, they're not elected officials, and we need to make sure that it's either constitutional or it's not damaging the economy. There's proper ways to regulate. There's responsible regulation, and there's ways to do that based on science that won't necessarily hurt the economy and will create an environment, or at least not stifle the environment for the job creators to grow and create jobs.
And very controversial, very difficult issues to handle.
Absolutely.
What about unemployment compensation? We have like 41 weeks now that we're paying out.
Yeah.
Do you think that there should be a program where people are going through training and going through programs to be reemployed? Or do you think that we should just pay out unemployment until the end and then let them try to get a job?
Well, I think that would be a good start. I was talking to a gentleman, I think it was yesterday, who's been on unemployment for those the full term, and I think even a little bit more. There was a loophole or something, and and now he wants to go back to school. And I was just thinking, man, it's too bad, because the amount of time he was unemployed, he actually could have got an associate's degree, free training. So that's a good start. However, what we don't want is a bunch of people having their masters and PhDs sitting around not being able to find a job. So it all goes back to, we have to get back to creating jobs. We have to create the environment for the job creators to create those jobs, so when people are educated or are out there looking for jobs, there is a job there waiting for them. So that's my priority.
Right. I mean, the problem is that you have all these people that are on unemployment for 41 weeks, and each week and month that goes by gives them less and less qualifications to go to work. Mm-hmm. So they become like more of a couch potato than anything
and it doesn't look good on a
else.
resume either.
No, it doesn't.
To have a space and a gap like that. So we
No,
really,
it doesn't.
like I said, it's a good place to start, but we have to make sure there's jobs there for them.
Yeah, we have to. We have to make sure that they get some compensation, but there's no incentive to go out and work. There really isn't any. And I think it's a problem that we need to be focused on.
There needs to be some accountability, for sure. And that's something that the president just wiped out, the accountability of that you need to be at least looking for a job to be on welfare if you're able to. And that's another overstep of the boundary of the presidency, where he bypassed Congress. That's something that had bipartisan support during the Clinton administration, bipartisan support. Think about that. And he overstepped it and just said, forget that. We're not going to regulate. We're not going to keep up with that anymore.
Wow, that's too bad. So, well, I wish you the best.
Well, thank you, Sandra.
We need you in Congress. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Here. Oh, you're welcome. And we ask you to vote for Chad Lee when you get to the opportunity to do so. And in the meantime, thank you for watching today, and see you soon.